Hello, this is Roselia or Gloria Neomusa on YouTube, and I just wanted to make a new tier list video because I have already deleted my old ones because I did not want to keep them up and they were too long. So I just wanted to make a video that was going to be a lot shorter, and I wanted to at least have a tier list video, so I figured I might as well record this and you get to see my beautiful face for the first time because I'm borrowing a friend's camera right now. Yeah, so let's just get into the tier list. I want to try and keep this as short as I can. And I'm going to be talking about the jobs in specific reference to low level and low level throughout the entire game. So I'm not going to like touch too much on post game stuff, like the Hall of Tribulations abilities and whatnot. Like, I don't want to put those in too much of a factor when it comes to these jobs. But yeah, let's just get into the tier list. So first, I'm going to put Freelancer in B tier. I want to put it in B tier because, so for me, this is going to be like the lowest tier. I don't think any job should be lower than B tier, honestly. But I think Freelancer definitely could have ended up lower than B tier because it doesn't really have a lot going on for it, especially compared to the other jobs, but I think it has enough to kind of solidify it here. It is going to be the only one in B tier, but I think Square One, being as good as it is, being able to cancel any enemy buff, actually every enemy buff, is really good. And even its special increasing attack and magic attack is really nice, or physical attack and magic attack is really nice. The only drawback with that is that you have to use the attack command to get it back, which really sucks. But yeah, overall I think Freelancer is pretty underwhelming without Late Bloomer, which I do not allow. But I think that Square One and Purge, but especially Square One, are enough to make it B tier at least. Alright, and then we have Monk here in A tier. So I do value Monk being able to self-buff its physical attack a lot, and especially in conjunction with its specialty that lets Monk have its turn come around quicker when you use any Monk skills. So I do really like both of those aspects about it, and the job as a whole I think is very strong. It's just there's gonna be a gap between A and S, I think, because well, I guess really quickly, Monk has the ability to reduce fire resistance, which is nice. It has Pierce default, which is nice. Pierce defense even. Focal point, I think is the one that decreases a random stat by like a lot. I think it's like 20% or something. These are like good aspects, but I think that there's other jobs or other physical jobs that do more, and the fact that its self-buffs, while really good, end up being weaker than what you get from both Berserker and Pictomancer, which come pretty soon after that, makes it, like, it's not bad at all. Like, it's a really, really good self-buff to have, especially if you want to sub-job it with some stuff. But I think it just makes it not quite as good as those jobs. And if those jobs are a higher tier, then I kind of have to put Monk lower, if that makes sense. And then Ranger I'm going to put in this tier because Ranger I really want to love a lot. And I do love Ranger in some ways because I like the way that it operates. It's just Humanoid Slayer costs too much MP and it's bow locked. Being bow locked is like the worst thing in this game, honestly, because bows fall off really hard. It's like the only weapon type in this game that I think is kind of subpar. So yeah, it's bow locked. It has too much MP cost on Humanoid Slayer. Most bosses are humanoid. Everything else about how the kit works is really cool, but I think if Humanoid Slayer costed less, it would be a lot more effective. You can use Salvemaker with it once you get Salvemaker, just to make sure that every attack becomes, so every attack can hit a vulnerability. But once you do that, even though like it can do its job really well because you can use a cheaper Slayer move, and get the same effects that you would by using Humanoid Slayer. But I think by that point, you got a lot of better stuff anyway, and you're locked into using Salvemaker with Ranger. So I just think that Ranger ends up not being quite as good as the other jobs, in my opinion. And then Bastion is weird because I think Bastion also, again, is just like really good overall. And especially like the damage reduction it can get is really good. Wall is actually a phenomenal buff, self buff. 25% physical defense and magic defense at the same time is crazy. It's got a lot of good stuff going for it. I think the only thing is it just comes too late, and it's not, even though like it's a really good like sub, like Shieldmaster's sub Bastion is really good. Shieldmaster sub White Mage is also still very good. So I think it doesn't necessarily provide enough compared to the other jobs available for the point at which you get it, if that makes sense. At least in my mind. And then Dragoon is going to be also in the last A tier one, I think. S tier is going to be like the biggest tier. S plus is going to be just for my top 5. So I wanted to make sure most jobs sit in S, and then whatever is going to be like slightly worse than the rest of them underneath in A. But I think these are all still very solid jobs. As far as Dragoon's concerned, Jump is just kind of disappointing in single target situations. When it comes to like multiple enemies, I think it's really cool. Like one of the coolest techs in the game, in my opinion. Like just for what I like, because I really like being able to use Indiscriminate Rage with full force in order to make in order to like do extra damage to a group of enemies with Jump. I think it's just really cool and really fun, and it does work for doing a lot of damage. It's just once you try to do single target with Jump, it just, there's other things that you could do that are just gonna do better than Jump could, honestly. Other than that, the rest of its moveset is pretty good. Spirit Crusher is phenomenal combined with Thief. It has default piercing, which is nice. It has an electric imbued attack, which is nice. Just a bunch of solid stuff overall. And also built-in dual wield with its high wind specialty is really nice. Okay, next is Vanguard. We are now starting S tier. So these are going to be all above, obviously, the ones that are in A tier. So Vanguard is just like straight up better monk for the most part, as far as like, if you don't take into consideration monk having self buff and the ability to lower fire resistance. But like as far as like just damage dealing is concerned, it's better than monk, is what I was trying to get across. Like they do different things, but yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, fix what I was saying. Is I think as far as like just purely dealing damage, I think Vanguard comes out on top because of Neo Cross Slash, and it also provides defensive utility as well with Enrage and being able to lower the enemy's attack and defense with certain skills. It's just a really good job, just a really solid job. Okay. Swordmaster here. So Swordmaster has 2 items better than 1 as a passive, which is already going to be S tier worthy because that passive is going to be on like every offensive build ever because it is one of the best passives in the entire game. It also has Solid and Fluid Stance, which Solid Stance is good because it deals quite a bit of damage while also having like a ton of hits. So especially with multitask. So being able to attack like so many different times in one turn for a lot of damage is really good. And also, more importantly, Fluid Stance combined with Shieldmaster is incredible. Like it's one of the best job combinations in the game because it allows you to essentially make it so the enemy always is at -3 BP, because every time they hit you, as long as you're doing the setup properly, they get put down to -3 and you get put up to +3, and then you can just keep doing that the entire fight. which helps make bosses a lot easier to deal with. Yeah, I think that's most of what I wanted to talk about because I want to try and spend less time on these. Okay, so Thief is just a phenomenal support job. I know obviously Godspeed Strike is known for dealing ridiculous amounts of damage, and while it's true that it's very good to like throw on like pretty much any build really, Godspeed Strike does do a lot of damage, but for low level I don't value it quite as much as like even Neo Cross Slash I would say is better than Godspeed Strike because Godspeed Strike just has way too much of an MP cost, and I also prefer having the immediacy of something like Neo Cross Slash than having to wait for the extra hit. Even though it's nice that the extra hit pierces or the extra hit doesn't take default into consideration, but I think Godspeed Strike at low level is not really the selling point for this job. I think really the selling point is just how much it can do, like, to kind of support the party in terms of being able to do stuff like, because of its specialty 2, making any BP cost and MP cost, you can do stuff like MP gift from, or not MP gift, sorry, BP gift from Vanguard, and use that on one of your allies just for an MP cost instead of BP cost, so you can do far more. And you can do that after stealing BP from the enemy, which is really nice for, you know, helping support your party, because if you can steal BP from the enemy, they're going to have less opportunities to attack you, yeah? It also just has really high speed. Its special can increase the party's speed even further. It can steal buffs just innately by using any sort of steal skill. So I think all this utility that it provides makes it a very good support that just so happens to also have a nice, like, really strong move that it can use. But again, I think the MP cost is definitely a big issue to take into consideration. Next is Brave Bearer. So Brave Bearer it could potentially be S+, aside from the fact that you get it so late. Its passives are really good. It has, like, some incredible skills. Like, its specialties are very good. The ability to, like, control the flow of BP in the battle is actually incredible, considering the fact that BP is, like, the most valuable resource in the game. So being able to, like, lower enemy BP and gain your own BP back up and just kind of mess around with that actually is genuinely just incredible. I just think that you get it too late. You get it too late in the game. And then Spearmaster is only here because of one setup. And this is a setup that one of my friends actually helped me discover. So one of my friends theorized the Beastmaster and Spiritmaster combination. And then I was like, oh, well, what if I use a really good damaging beast as the beast that comes out? And then that combination ends up becoming an unkillable combination that also deals some very good damage. And otherwise, like, honestly, I would probably put Spearmaster in A tier at best, maybe B tier. But I think it does a little bit more than Freelancer. It's just, I feel like Spearmaster doesn't do as much as a lot of the other jobs in the game, especially, like, as a healing role. I think, like, a lot of other healers are just better than it. But I do think that it has at least enough going for it to be okay. And then, of course, I think its placement in S tier is definitely going to be something that I'm not, like, 100% certain on, just because it is all based on this one setup. But this one setup genuinely, the setup basically is, because Spiritmaster can survive at 1 HP as long as it's at 20% or higher, and Beastmaster can send out a beast at random when it hits 20% or lower. Essentially, you end up with a combination where you get hit, you guaranteed send out a beast. If you only have one kind of beast and you just get max of that one kind. Actually, you don't even need max of that one kind. You only literally need one of it because it doesn't use up any like usage of it. And you just deal, you know, a ton of damage for free for just getting hit, and then you survive the attack, and then you rinse and repeat over and over throughout the fight, And if you have a team of Spirit Master sub Beastmaster, you could just sit there and do nothing the entire fight and auto win, and there's nothing the enemy can really do about it. So I think like that makes this S tier worthy, just because that combination is actually incredible. Black Mage is next, actually. Okay, so Black Mage is just really solid high magic damage. It has a really good magic attack. It has amazing proficiency in staves. It has Lunar Powered, which Lunar Powered is incredible. Like, legitimately, I use Lunar Powered on every single magic build that I have. That's how good Lunar Powered is. The fact that it has a passive, like, the fact that you get Black Mage at the beginning of the game, like, literally, like, it's the first job you get aside, like, alongside Freelancer, and it gives you a passive that is a staple on every magic build for the entire game, is already kind of amazing, on top of everything else I've already talked about with it. So yeah, just a really, really good job, I think. And then Arcanist here is going to be a lot stronger than Black Mage, which is why I put it above Black Mage, but it does come at a pretty serious cost, which is why I can't really put it in S+, despite the fact that it has the potential to just like one-shot everything because it can just nuke stuff. But I think as a general use case, there's other stuff that's better, if that makes sense, because you're kind of stuck into having to use Reflect, which, by the way, is still like one of my favorite strategies in the game. Arcanist and Oracle are both like two of my favorites, but the fact that you have to set up Reflect on everybody, and it has to be up when you cast, and that is the literal only way that Arcanist really works out consistently, is going to be a point against it to keep it any higher. But the fact that it can just nuke anything and insta-kill it is just kind of insane. I don't think I really need to explain much more than that to justify Arcanist being an S tier at the very least. And then Selvemaker here. Selvemaker is just, again, incredible. It can heal with items, like extra, or it gives items extra healing, both from being empty-handed and from healing item amp, which is really good because it's nice consistent healing, like that you don't need to like set up at all for. It has widen area to heal everybody, as well as use ethers on everybody, which is really nice. It also has a really good special, which increases physical attack by 30%, which is really good, especially considering you can easily just spam widen area to get your special easily, which allows for easy special chaining. And it has Thrust and Parry, which Thrust and Parry is a phenomenal passive. Yeah, I think Selvemaker is very good. And then Red Mage is just after Selvemaker. So Red Mage is kind of stuck kind of right between Arcanist and Oracle, which is funny because it is part of both of those comps as far as like my favorite way to play them, and probably the best way to, where you can get the chain spell with Arcanist, which in order to get chain spell and wild wizardry, that is obviously going to be later on in the game. So, like, once you get Brave Bear, so that is a little too late for that combination. But it's still extremely powerful because it just makes Arcanist even better. And then it also just pairs really well with Oracle, like, as soon as you get Oracle, because Triplara is already amazing, and a double cast Triplara is just phenomenal. Yeah. And then, obviously, Healaga for set healing, which is really nice. It has Revenge, Magic Crit, and it has just like some good magic spells. Very good job. Okay, Berserker. It has the self buff, like I was talking about when I was talking about Monk. And granted, its self buff makes it so you have a random chance to not be able to act, but with Night Shift, it increases the chance by a lot. And then with Lunar Powered on top of Night Shift, it can increase it even further, actually, because it's all luck-based, and increasing your luck makes the chance even higher. And basically, when you're enraged, you get 50% extra physical attack, which is already, like, for just clicking one button to get that 50% physical attack is way stronger than having to brave out for your buffs. And also, it makes anything you use free, which means you can spam Amped Strike literally for free, which is like one of the strongest skills in the entire game. Which I think is honestly like one of the coolest things ever. I really love how Berserker as a job works. And then of course Pierce Default is a really good specialty. And also Bloody Minded is phenomenal. Okay, next up is Phantom. Phantom's really fast, which is really good. It has results guaranteed, which is phenomenal, especially for like cheesing stuff with statusing stuff guaranteed. Obviously, it just ends up costing a lot of MP the more that you try to do. And then it has critical amp, and it has a 50% chance to critical hit when it hits a weakness. So it also has a self buff that gives 25% physical and magic attack. And obviously, I very much value the self buff. Obviously, it comes very late, but I think that it is still a very, very good job. And I think it's worthy of being put up here. And then Oracle is just one of the best jobs in the game. Not top 5, I don't think, but it could be a contender for top 5. In One's Element is just an incredible specialty, being able to give a 40% increase to magic or elemental damage, and also reducing elemental spell cost by 40% is really good. Also having all of the support options it has, like I'm not going to list all of them off because you already know all the support options that Oracle has, and you already probably know exactly why they're so good. And I value support very, very highly because support is what allows your damage dealers and your tanks to really like perform as best as they can. So I'm definitely biased towards supports. Even though I'm like a huge like DPS main, I like DPS the most. I think that as far as like what I value in terms of like tiering things, I think I am biased towards valuing supports more because they're what allow me to be my DPS, you know? So yeah, I think Oracle, and especially not only is it a support, but Triplara, like I said, is like one of the best magic skills in the game and just one of my favorites. So yeah, I think Oracle deserves a spot up here. And then Gambler has Bold Gambit, which can get everybody to 3 BP. I've been using it recently on my channel, so I'm sure that you've seen me use it. I'm sure you've seen why it's so good. It is a random chance, but honestly, it is the best form of getting BP, like for most of the game. And you get it super early on. So I think like with how early you get it and how you can give everybody 3 BP, like everyone can brave out, get to -3, and then you could just get them all to 3 BP by using Bold Gambit, already is enough to put this up here. On top of the fact that it doesn't just do Bold Gambit, it can also do High Roller, which does a lot of damage, and it can even do Elemental Wheel in certain fights to do some pretty good damage. So I think the fact that, again, Bold Gambit is what really puts it here, but the fact that it can also deal some pretty good damage on top of that does give it a spot high up. The big grievance I have with it is it doesn't have, or it has bow proficiency, but it's a genuinely a phenomenal support just because of that one broken skill. And then we have Hellblade here. Hellblade, again, self-buffing is amazing, and the fact that it can get a 50% buff to both physical and magic attack and defense is incredible with just one move, and you can do it twice in a row to get 100%, which is phenomenal. And then of course it can hit literally every single elemental weakness because it has every element with its swords, or whatever those skills are called, the blades or whatever. And it also has very good proficiency in swords and staves, while also having good physical and magic attack. So in general, this is just a very, very, very strong job that is also very self-sufficient. It also gets minus strike if you want to do some minus strike strats. And it also has surpassing power, which I think definitely is just another cherry on top because like it allows your DPS, you know, it's not necessarily technically a support thing, but like it enables your DPS to break damage cap, which enables them to be even stronger. So I think, and that applies for like everything because it's a passive, right? So I think it belongs right here. You could argue S plus, but I think the combination of Spirit Master and Beastmaster, which I will actually show off in a video, by the way, I think that is enough to put Beastmaster in S plus. And speaking of, Beastmaster has that and also has all the beasts, which, I mean, you guys probably already know that, like, there's just so many options you have with Beastmaster. It's so versatile. You can capture beasts that buff or debuff or do, like, physical damage or magic damage. It's a very good job combined with the strat I already talked about earlier. White Mage, better than ever, honestly, like, on its own kind of enables most of low level and most of making low level actually like very fun and being able to express yourself with a lot more strategies. So I think already out of the gate, better than ever is already an S plus passive. On top of the fact that you get it like really early in the game, it's after the first boss fight. On top of the fact that White Mage has way more than that going for it. It has Protect and Shell, which you can cast on anybody. Every other buff is a self buff, but this one you can cast on whoever you want. And it has really good healing, especially considering it has Benediction, which gives a 30% increase to it gives a 30% increase to restorative power, which just allows it to heal more. And even from the very beginning, even from the get-go, it heals a ton of health with its special, just like right out of the gate. So like you can immediately start the fight with everybody having a lot of health, allowing you to survive a lot more. Allowing you to survive fights a lot easier. And this continues throughout the entire game because it only scales as the game progresses. Like the amount that you can heal with your special just keeps increasing the more stuff you get. I think that White Mage is just constantly an amazing job that just keeps getting better and better as the game progresses. On top of the fact that it also has Angelic Ward. So Angelic Ward is not only incredible just in general, but it also is incredible to sub-job with Shield Master. And especially, like, obviously once you get sub-job specialty 1, and being able to have that damage reduction on your Shield Master is just incredible. I'm going to move on now. I think I've made my case for White Mage. Shield Master, I don't think I have to talk too much on this. It just takes every hit and takes like no damage, especially with good support. And everybody else on your team is free to do whatever they want, as long as they occasionally just like buff or heal. But like Shield Master will take care of everything else for them. It's really phenomenal. This job is broken. But I also kind of value these two jobs a little bit more, maybe. So these three can be actually these four can kind of be interchangeable for me, honestly. But I think I like the way that I have this set up. Pictomancer is a debuffer, so you already know how I feel about supports. And Bard is a buffer. So I think those two are kind of already self-explanatory as why I think they're so good, because they're truly what enable your DPS and even your tanks. On top of the fact that I really like how Bard's skills are increases to damage dealt and decreases to damage taken, which also allow you to combine those with stat buffs to further increase your damage potential or your tanking potential. And Shut Up and Dance is honestly like one of the best skills in the entire game. I don't think I can stress enough just how incredible it is to just pass a turn to somebody immediately. So yeah. And then Pictomancer, aside from just the debuffs, it also can buff itself, which is incredible. I've already talked about how I love self buffs. So having self buffs is just a cherry on top of an already incredible class, which allows you to kind of consolidate both roles of support and DPS, which allows you to free up another slot in your team, which is actually kind of valuable. And with a click of just one button, your special button, you can daub all the enemies and lower all of their stats to -35. So, yeah, I think that these jobs are incredible, and I think that is the tier list. So, hopefully this was enjoyable, and hopefully it was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!